So we begin our adventuring in Split, and here is the little courtyard of the apartment that we rented, which is very nice. And there's even a barbecue area where we can barbecue, and an outdoor sink, and my vape stuff drying out because it got soaked in vape juice on the flight over. This is a lounge bedroom with just one seat and a bed, and all you need: microwave, fridge, freezer, toaster, kettle, power point, and rather bijou little bathroom with a shower cubicle, and again, everything you need here. And it goes out onto a very quiet street because it's pedestrian. So just have a quick look outside the door. I'm in my boxers, so I can't really do too much. And then you see down that way, takes you down towards Split, and up that way takes you towards the end of the road. There you are. So starting our trip out this morning, first full day here. This is the street where our apartment is, just up there. There's a little park over there, and then as you walk down here with a noisy 50cc motor scooter in the background, you actually end up at what is, you end up actually on the Riva, which is what Croatians seem to call the seafront. I don't know why, but they do. So that's what we're up to this morning, and then we're going down to Recce out the bus station because tomorrow, weather permitting, we're going to Croatia for the day. So this is the street where our apartment is, just up there on the left hand side, and we're walking down now towards the coast, or the seafront, which is known as the Riva. So this is our first day adventuring in Croatia, well, the first full day anyway, and we're going to go to the bus station to see how long it takes to walk there, because we're going early tomorrow morning to Croatia for a day trip. So carrying on the walk down from the apartment to the Riva, which is just down the bottom of this street. Typically touristy, probably very expensive restaurants the closer you get to the sea. But all in all, it's a very historic town. Quite incredible, really. And a bit later on we're going to go to the Diocletian Palace, which was built at the end of the 3rd century by the Emperor Diocletian after he retired. He was the only emperor to have ever retired. And he came from a town just up the road from here, which is why he built his palace on the beach. Very noisy cicadas this morning as we walk down to the Riva. So this is the Riva, or the beginning of the Riva, which is the seafront in Split. And there's a fast ferry coming in. We'll be catching one of those on Thursday to go to the island of Brač, which is somewhere over there ahead of me. I have no idea where it is in relation to where we are, but it's over there somewhere. And there's the port over there, which has cruise ships arriving. In fact, there's one in today by the looks of things. And in fact, there are two in today. There's the Thompson's cruise ship there, and there's also the Jadrolinija ferry company, which ferries people around to all the various islands from here and goes to Dubrovnik and goes to Pula. And they say this is the Riva. And apparently, tourist warning, don't eat in these restaurants because they are stupidly expensive. There are a lot cheaper ones if you just go slightly back into town. We've just been walking through the Green Market, and this is one of the gates to the Diocletian Palace, which we'll go into soon. And Sue's found a hat stall and she's trying on hats. What an exciting morning, standing outside a hat stall trying on hats. Anyway, Diocletian Palace on the way shortly. So wandering down now into one bit of the Diocletian Palace. Sue's playing David Bailey. Apparently you can go up that tower. Not sure whether we will or we won't. But as I said, this was built at the end of the 3rd century AD for the Roman Emperor Diocletian as his retirement home. A lot of it's gone, but there's still an awful lot of it here, which we'll investigate as we carry on. So it's another part of the Diocletian Palace, or what's left of it. And for theatrical effect, to Roman legionnaires down there. And still trying to get a picture of Roman legionnaires. This place is a veritable rabbit warren, complete with resident peacock, and that part looks back towards the port. Originally, this wall was actually at the sea's edge, but over the years, obviously, there's been the promenade built and the port and everything else, but the original palace went right to the edge of the sea, and it just goes on and on and on, and that octagonal tower there is actually part of the original palace as well. And there are still people living in it. This is funny because there are shops and there are actual people living inside the palace. Those houses over there are actually lived in by ordinary people, as are the ones you can see above the woodwork. Very unusual. This Diocletian Palace is a veritable rabbit warren. In fact, there are so many bits of it going this way, that way and every way that I have completely lost my sense of direction. I believe the sea would be to my left, but I can't be certain. And you're never far from a church anywhere in Croatia. Even the small villages have at least one, if not two, and they are characterised mainly with that design of bell tower. And this obviously is Gregory of Nin, who was a Croatian sculptor apparently, according to that board. This is one of our favourite shops. They're all over Croatia. They're called Mlina, and they're bakeries that do fresh pies, pastries, and all sorts of things. And Sue's then choosing what we're going to have to eat. So, as we have an expression, Sue and I, because the name of the organisation is Mlina, we always say it's Mlina for dinner. And there you have it, Mlina for dinner, outside the Diocletian Palace here in Split. Good Lord. That's a sign I like to see. Welcome to the Terrace Bamba. Beer is the only food we serve. Love it. What a cracking little bar, and a nice drop of American Pale Ale from a brewery in Split, a craft beer brewery in Split. And it's a bit of a room with a view as well, overlooking the port over the back there with the two cruise ships in that were in when we were filming earlier. And it's in a slightly quieter part of town, which we're going to carry on investigating after I've had my delightful pint of American Pale Ale. Having just come out of the little beer bar with a nice pint of Croatian beer. Actually Split, the brewery's in this town here. And again, just wandering around, just seeing what we can find, where we can find. And here again is a view from the river right the way round to the main harbour at the end, where the cruise ships and the ferry boats all dock and go from and to the various islands, the two nearest of course being Brach and Hua. After climbing what seemingly is Mount Everest, and it's still not complete yet, we find ourselves here. I can't remember the name of this park, but it begins with an M, and as you can see it overlooks, I think that's Havara out there, or it could be Brach, I'm not sure, the island. And there's the TUI cruise ship in, and there's also an Azimara, which is a very expensive cruise line, and the Abrolinia ferries. And then down there of course is the Riva, the seafronting split, and there's the urban sprawl of the town behind it, leading back to the mountains. And it certainly is a room with a view. And through the big tower there we saw earlier is in the Diocletian Palace, or as Sue calls it, the Dystopian Palace. And that's another harbour where it's mostly private vessels, and there's a restaurant down there that we probably will try, as long as we don't have to climb up this mountain and go down the other side. If there's a flat way of getting to it, terrific. If not, it ain't happening. Climbing even further up, splits answer to Mount Everest, bump into this. A tiny weeny church all on its own. It's the Church of St. Nicholas, apparently, and was built quite a few hundred years ago. Other than that, I don't really know much about it. Great photo opportunity though for these people who like ancient monuments, especially churches. The bell tower was added somewhat later, as you can see from the different design of the architecture. So next day of adventuring, we've just come from Split on a Flix bus, not that one, but a different one. And we're now in Trogir. So we're at the bus station now, and there's an assumption we have to go over there, which we probably will do in a minute. But as you can see, the scenery is absolutely pretty spectacular. It's a bit windy today, although the sky is blue at the moment. It has threatened showers later, so both Sue and I are armed with our raincoats. So Trogir on day 3 of our new Croatian adventure. So we're wandering through the very narrow streets again of Trogir, and we've come into this square. Not sure historically how old it is. It could be a bit Roman, bearing in mind there's a lot of Roman influence around here. And there is a huge church spire, and a very nice church it looks like as well. Let's meander up the stairs and see if we can't get a slightly better look. I think you can go into it by the looks of things. Lots of beautiful ornate stone carving, which apparently this town is famous for. So how lovely is this? Everybody doing what they do best in Croatia at this time of day, having cups of coffee. And that looks like the town hall over there. More investigation to be done. Much like Split, there is a labyrinth of very small streets, mostly medieval from what I am reading, and then eventually you can wander out onto, again, what the Croats call the Riva. Excuse the wind noise, it is a bit blowy today. So here we are on the Riva in Trogir, and you can get that's actually an island over there, but it is connected via a bridge, so you can get over there, but it is an island, not actually attached to Trogir, and it does have its own name, which I've probably forgotten. And taking another look from a different angle, where I've just come out from appears to be one of the original gates to the city, and as you can see it's castellated all the way along, which would mean this was a defence wall. So obviously part of a much older town, possibly Roman, Certainly at least medieval. Interesting. And at the end there is a castle, so we're going to have a nose at that fairly shortly. So again, a classic spire of a Croatian church right on the seafront here, and there's another one over there. They're all roughly the same, and there are some seriously expensive floating gym palaces here, which I guess a lot of them are actually private as well. Now look, house over there for sale, but we couldn't afford that if we wanted it even. So this is towards the end of the river. The weather looks like it could be clagging in a bit. It has forecast for spitting down with rain today. We will see what we will see with that one as to whether it arrives or it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. And there's the castle which we're heading towards at the moment. Now, Split Airport is a good half an hour's drive from Split. In fact, it's far nearer to Trogir where we are. And that is on final approach into what is called Split Airport, but really it's actually in Trogir. It's a shame really that those things come over and make so much noise in a sort of medieval town like this, but I guess it is what it is. So from earlier I was saying that there is an island off of the coast of Trogir which is connected by a bridge, which is where we is now, and that over the other side is Trogir. And of course, as is typical in Croatia, there are yachts, boats of all shapes and sizes, because it is a very, very, very big boating nation. And over there, Karlovačko, grotty Croatian beer. Yeah, so on a rather windy and overcast day here in Trogir, we decided to camp out in this konoba, which means tavern in Croatian, Bornacha. So it's the Bornacha Tavern, and Sue is having a seafood risotto complete with mussels, and spookily enough I'm having cevapi with a great big dollop of ivar and some fresh onions. Unfortunately no salmon bread with this one. And the other unfortunate part as well is no kaimak and also dodgy or Yushko beer. But never mind. You can't have it always, can you? Having arrived in Trogir by bus this morning, we do have return tickets, but decided it might be a little bit more fun to go on this Bura line vessel, which takes an hour from here back to Split at the princely cost of €8 per passenger. How good is that? So now we're waiting for it to dock, and then we'll be on this wonderful boat heading our way back to Split, all for €8. How wonderful. So here we are sitting on vessel to take us back to Split from Trogir, hoping it's not going to rain on the way back because it's pretty exposed up here, but it should be all right, I hope. Castle in the distance, and that very large, very luxury two-masted yacht worth a good few million quid, I shouldn't wonder. So we're on this bucket of bolts. Oh, it's quieted down a little bit. Just leaving Trogir port, and then shortly up here, you probably can't really see it, but there's the control tower for what they call Split Airport, and yet it's nearer Trogir than it is Split. It's about a 10-minute drive from the airport into Trogir and a half an hour's drive into Split, so that's really a bit of a misnomer for an airport. So this is the tail end of Trogir. We're out of the town now and heading towards Split. Off we jolly well go. Now, to give you an idea of how close we are, there's a little private jet going into Split. Bit of crosswind, I would imagine, because it's quite blowy down here. Now this is a main road bridge that connects Trogir to the island that we've just taken this boat from, which is just slightly off the coast of Trogir. And there's the plane slowly descending into Split Airport. We can just about see the control tower. That up there is a cemetery on the outskirts of Split town, and it leads, as we follow through, to the harbour, which we'll be going into in a few moments' time. There don't appear to be any cruise ships in today, but there were 2 large cruise ships in yesterday. But that's our final port of call when we go around the corner, and there's looks like a restaurant and pizzeria there. That's a kind of a room with a view, is it not? That looks very smart, very nice. And there is another restaurant here called Lucicia, somewhere around this area, that Sue and I are probably going to try and find. I think it's around this bit here, just around the corner. More investigation needed on that one though, and equally how you get to it. Looks like it could be a long old walk. So now we're approaching, this is another private yacht marina here, full up with, spooky enough, yachts and very expensive playthings. And then that's the Riva at Split ahead of us, and to the right hand side is the Diocletian Paris, and there's a couple of very splendid yachts moored there as well, floating gym palaces. As I said, that restaurant I think is somewhere around this area, can't be certain, have to check it out. But we're now approaching Split Harbour, the main harbour for the big boats and the ferries.
Das zweite, nicht das erste, und so das zweite. Etwas und so von innen mega. Die haben 3 Kajüten, 3 Schlafzimmer, 2 Badezimmer, 1 mit Ensuite, Wärmezimmer, da stand das Badezimmer. Da oben liegt
And that's where we walked up yesterday, to the top there. Hell of a walk in 26 degrees of sunshine, I can tell you. Today's bit of adventuring in Croatia is climbing to the top of a bloody mountain to go to a fort called Klis, which I know not a lot about, but I dare say as we go through we'll find out. Took a bus up here and it took about 40 minutes. We really are literally at the top of a mountain. Anyway, more to come as we get closer to presumably the entrance to this ancient ruin. My word, this is a room with a view. Ahead there is Split, and the headland. Behind that is the island off the coast of Trogir, and the landmass you can see is Brač, which we are going to be visiting tomorrow. And then turn around t'other way and we have some more of the fort. At least the weather's holding off. It was threatened for thunderstorms today, although it does look a bit murky over that side. So taking the view from slightly higher up, same view though, right across Split, through to Brač, and the mainland over there with a rather mardy sky. This fortress apparently, although neither Sue nor I have ever seen a single episode, was used quite extensively in the filming of Game of Thrones. And there are Game of Thrones tours in here. No doubt we'll spot some of those a wee bit later on. This property is really quite enormous. And by all accounts it was built around about 852 AD for some Croatian lords, and it's basically been here ever since. So taking a slightly different view away from the coast, this is the view from the basically the, I don't know, the back end or the side end of this fortress, and there's, I think that main road there is the road to Zagreb. And again back round to the coast. It's a pretty big place, this, but not very well signboarded, not very well historically pointed out. I mean, this here has obviously been rebuilt, and the only clue it gives you is a little sign saying small quarters. So obviously troops lived in it, and it was small, I guess, but there's no definition. Building in front is the Fortress Chapel, and then as we progress this way there is a tunnel. I've no idea where the tunnel goes to, not very far, but there is a tunnel. I guess there's probably lots of them dotted around in this particular building. And there's somebody taking silly pictures. That's a powder magazine, apparently, according to the sign on the wall. And they keep all the stuff that blows you up. And it looks like they've got lots of spare stones here to do reparations as they need to. And obviously there are things here that used to be here that aren't here anymore. Now this is what I would call the rear side of the fortress. And it looks more towards the hinterland, as opposed to the other side, which is looking towards Split and the coast. That looks like one of the highest points, so we'll nip up there in a few minutes' time. This is the Church of St Vitus, that apparently, according to the plaque, was one of the first churches to actually mix Muslim and Christian beliefs together. So having now reached the highest point of the fort, these are the views. Not much different from the lower area really, but a few feet's not going to make a lot of difference. Split in the background, Bratch over there, and then to the rear of the fort, pretty high rocks. That was the church I've just been in, the one Church of St Vitus, the first church to have a Muslim and Christian belief merged together. Continuing adventuring in Split, Croatia, we are now down by the ferry port. There's the Marjoram Hill in the background where we walked up the other day, and we're off to Bol, which is a large town on the nearest island to Split, which is Bratch. And this is our ride for today. And although the temperature's not meant to get much above 17 degrees, it should be nice and sunny all day, unlike the rain that's been forecast virtually every day but really hasn't arrived much. So there you have it. So ready for blast off in about half an hour's time. There's a Yadrolinia car ferry off to one of the islands, and this is the VIP lounge. Love the pink seats. And there's a nice bar here where they do alcohol and coffee. And as it's only 8:30 in the morning, I don't think beer's on the agenda yet. No, there you have it. Starting our journey off to Bratch. So we've just disembarked the ferry that brought us over to Bratch, which is the largest of the 1,024 Croatian islands, and looks like a relatively small town. We're here for 6 hours or so, so I don't quite know what we're going to fit in, because it doesn't seem like there's an awful lot here, but I dare say we'll be able to find some things to play tourist with. Wherever you go in Croatia, there's always a Konzum supermarket, and you can catch a taxi here, water taxi, to Zlatni Rat. Zlatni means gold in Croatian, and Rat means war, so it's the Golden War Beach. What a strange name for a beach. But there's the catamaran that brought us over here, called Jaffa. but it's not orange, strangely enough. And then over there, that is the second largest island, called Hvar. And it's not warm today, but I have to say it's not cold either. So first port of call, as is usual when I go anywhere with Sue, is I've got to stop for a coffee. So we stopped at the Big Blue, whatever the Big Blue may be, and ordered a coffee. And as you can see, the sun is in and out, but there's not much in the way of significant clouds, so hopefully the weather's going to hold today. So this is the tail end of the little port here at Bol, which is the second largest town on the island. The largest one is over those mountains and on the other side, and it's called Supetar, as opposed to supercar. Supetar. And up there's a little church, nothing unusual there. You're never more than a few hundred meters from a church in Croatia. That's where we were sitting a few moments ago having a coffee in the Big Blue. Now this overlooks the relatively small harbour oblique port at Bol. The sea is absolutely crystal clear. The catamaran we arrived on docked in over there and has blasted off again. And here's a little walkway over the top, and there's a little church there which we'll probably investigate in a few moments' time. This beach is known as Zlatni Rat, or Golden War Beach, and it's probably one of the most famous ones in Croatia. If you look at any of the Croatian tourist brochures, it always features this beach here, and it gets bigger and smaller depending on the tidal movements. So at the moment, judging by the sand, it's the tide is going out, and then beneath it is one of these, don't know what you call them really, overgrown lilos. And this is a walkway that goes right the way along from Bol centre out as far as, I believe, Ratni Beach, or to give it its proper name, Ratni Beach, Zlatni Rat. I don't know, investigation. We will find out as we go along. So this is the beach at Zlatni Rat. Actually, my Google Translate let me down. It translated rat as war, but according to the signboards coming down here, it means Golden Cove, not Golden War, which makes more sense. So well done, Google, for getting that word entirely and utterly wrong. Bol itself is way in the distance over there. You can't see it. We've walked all the way around the coast so far to get to this beach, which isn't, well, I mean, it is a beach, obviously, but as with most Croatian beaches, it's more pebble and very little sand. And of course, over there is the island of Hvar, stretching across, which is Croatia's second largest island. This is the largest island. A lot of wind down here, but it's still very, very pleasant, obviously. So, having spent a long time walking along the seafront to Zlatni Rat, we've decided to stop for some lunch in this restaurant, which is called Topolino. It says it's a pizzeria, but it does all sorts of food as well. And there's a ferry that we'll be catching back later on. It obviously comes and goes all day long. So it's a bit of a restaurant with a view. Seems very nice. So looking forward to the Karlovačko, which is just arriving now. So we've just had lunch in Topolino's restaurant. Very nice it was as well. Probably a little bit pricier than you would pay on the mainland, but there's not a lot of difference with it. And so now we're going to wander off in generally that direction, because apparently there is a Dominican monastery down there. So we're going to go and have a little nose at that. And whilst it's windy, the weather has held up particularly well today, because it was supposedly meant to be drizzling and rainy, but it's been, for the most part, clear blue skies. And fairly warm, I have to say, still in shorts and short sleeve shirts. And again, just for a reference point, that is Hvar, and directly in front of me isn't a separate island. It's part of Hvar, but it's like a channel that leads to Stari Grad, which is one of the big towns on Hvar, which is the second biggest island in Croatia. There's somebody going out for a fun afternoon on their sailing vessel, rather them than me, that's all I can say. Well, having walked all the way from the centre of Bol to the Dominican monastery, only to find out, much like Spain, it closes at 2 o'clock and doesn't open again until 5. So this is going to be a day trip that was a waste of a walk, because come 5 o'clock we need to be back near the port again, ready to blast off back to Split. But while we're here, I thought I'd just get me little BIM camera out and have a nos at it, see if there's anything marginally exciting that can be filmed whilst we're here. And the answer is not really. Oh well, it was worth the walk, he says. This is a cemetery on the outskirts of Split that my Croatian friend Stanko, who used to live in Split, said go and have a visit. Not because it's a cemetery particularly, but because you get some spectacular views over this bay. That island there to the right is Soltar, and then there's a channel in the centre which divides it from that island, which is Brač, where we went yesterday. And if I can get past these lovelocks, and looks back towards Split, 2 cruise ships in today. There's a pizzeria restaurant down there, and there's the town of Split in the background. And we've just walked through a marina which just had millions upon millions of pounds worth of flashy floating gym palaces. Quite amazing. So still in the cemetery, there's a memorial service, I guess, going on this morning. It is Sunday, so maybe it's just an ordinary church service, maybe it's just an ordinary church parked in a cemetery. I don't rightly know. As we walk further down, there's another one of Split beaches over there. Not quite sure what's down this side because I haven't looked over the rusty fence yet. Oh right, so there's some lads playing a game of football, and as is typical, the ball's gone out of play. And there's obviously another coastal path which I guess we'll walk around in a few moments' time. And there's a big swimming pool there where apparently they play this game with a ball. It's like water polo but different, so my Croatian friend tells me. And there where the flag is flying is the top of Mayam Park, which we almost made it to but didn't quite get there because I was knackered. Through the trees is Jadrolinja, which is the biggest ferry company in Croatia, and it's like one of these forward-backward boats. It's got a pointed end at both ends because it's a car ferry, so it can dock in with the cars facing outwards, if you like, when it leaves, and facing inwards when it docks, so everybody can drive off in forward. And there over there is another, what the Croats refer to as a beach, but as you can see it's a pile of rocks with entryways into the sea. And there's the Adriatic kicking up a bit of a noise this morning. That island there is the continuation of the little island off of Trogir, which is about another 8 or 9 kilometres in that direction. And once again we get a view of Soltar over there and Brač over there, and then the one in the middle where the sailing boats are is Hvar. I shudder to think how many miles we've walked. Now we've reached a dead end. It's just rockery over that side, so that's basically the end of our walk this morning, which has been absolute miles, because Split is, well, you can't even see Split from here, it's tucked in behind that promontory. And we passed that tanker on our way in last night, and this is on Google Maps. It's indicated as Cat Point. So we had to walk up here obviously to sue anything to do with cats, and we found this point here where there are a number of pussycats. In fact, there have been pussycats everywhere, to be honest with you, but they all seem to be well looked after even though they're strays. There's a number of them here, as I said, because on Google Maps it shows as Cat Point. There's a handful of them. Some kittens as well as some adult cats as well. So now begins the hike all the way back down again, and we're only past one coffee bar on the way, so It's going to be a long way to get a cup of coffee. So this was another recommendation from Stanco. It's right on the peninsula next door to a public swimming pool, but as it's the end of the season, it's pretty well closing down now. And of course, the weather being inclement today, there's not much of a terrace outside. I mean, there are a few brave souls braving it, but there's not that many, to be truthful, because although it's warm-ish, it is quite blowy, and certainly isn't swimming and sunbathing weather, in my opinion. And that's the cemetery that we walked through a few moments ago. And so we're in here just having a latte coffee and a catch up on where we can possibly go for the next couple of days before it's time to go home. So having come out from the coffee to this little area outside the coffee bar, 2 sun loungers, 1 sun umbrella and a little table will cost you €40 per day. Me think that's a little bit expensive, considering there is no beach here, as is typical in most Croatian seaside resorts. You've got to get in the sea by climbing down those ladders. So I would have thought €40 is a bit on the heavy side, personally. We've just stopped here actually, which is one of our favourite pubs, although it really is pretty spit and sawdust, although the view outside over the port is, apart from the boats, pretty good. The guy who owns it is a really, really friendly fellow, and the important thing is they do griff beer and they also do typical Croatian meat dishes, so we're going to have a meat platter later on for 2 people. So that's what we're looking forward to, isn't it, sweetheart? Some nice griff, as it says on the glass, and a pint for me because I'm a boy and she's a girlie. Oh my God, Sue and I decided to stay in this little bar that I just reported on a few moments ago to have a couple more griff beers, and then we decided we'd eat here, so we decided we'd have a mixed meat platter for 2, and that is it. Now, if we get through this, we'll need a taxi or a lorry to take us home. Oh my God. That is just unbelievable. So about a 20-minute walk from our apartment is the other side of the headland here at Split. So literally bang opposite here. If you run over the hill and down the other side, you get back to where we're staying. But this is the other side. That isn't an island out there, it's the coastline following around, because Split is also on a peninsula as well. And then further down here, theoretically, is a restaurant called Lucica, which we saw on YouTube and it looked quite nice, so we thought we'd give it a try. But at the moment, it's pretty dead down here, so I don't know what we're going to find. Maybe it's closed for the season, who knows. So this is another view of this part of Split, which at the moment is resembling a 1-horse, 50,000 boat town. There's hardly a soul around. I don't even know if the restaurant's open yet. It's early. It's only 11:30, so we haven't actually timed this right. We should have left about half an hour or so later. But this is the headland. I think that's something to do with radio and TV up there. It doesn't look like a lighthouse. But as I said, we are literally on the other side of this. It's what's the tail end of Mayam Park. And then if you went up there by boat and hung a left, you'd come into Split. And there's some sort of large vessel over there. I have no idea what that town is on that side. No idea whatsoever. But it obviously is a town. So the whole reason for the visit to this side of the headland was to come to the restaurant Lucica, as it says on the menu. And it's a good menu as well, and actually for Split the prices are pretty good as well. So we've got the menu, we've got the wine list. So all we need now is a waiter to take the order and get our food. So we'll come back to the food a little bit later on, but right now, as you can see, it certainly is a room with a view. Following on from the last video, Sue's got her macaroni and something or the other. I've no idea what it is. What is it, love?
Truffles and...
Oh, macaroni and truffles and bits and pieces. And I've just got a very light lunch here with some cevapi, some things that are rolled up. I've no idea what they are. Another type of sausage up there. There's a little bit of steak. There's some pork chop. There's some chippings, and of course the obligatory Ivar and kaimak to go with it. Excellent. Gonna get stuck in.